Good morning. And welcome to First Parish in Framingham. We are a welcoming congregation, so whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. We welcome you here, however you're joining us during this time of worship, whether here in the meeting house, online, or whenever you might be watching this service in the future. My name is Jan Miller. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm serving as your worship associate this morning. Be sure to read the announcements in the order of service. There are activities happening after worship. Immediately following worship, you're invited to join us for social time in Scott Hall, just across the Greeley courtyard. Please take a moment to turn your phones or other devices to their quietest settings. While electronic noises can be distracting, we welcome your human noises, especially the sound of your singing and your laughter. And there will be singing and laughter today, so get ready. So please join in. This service is a service for all ages. We welcome your gentle movements and your participation. Since 1701, people have gathered as this community to rest or recharge, to be challenged or affirmed. Those people are like you. You belong here, maybe only for the next hour, but we hope for longer. We're happy to have you with us.
Come, beloveds, enter into this space made holy by our presence. Enter into this hour made holy by our intention. Come to celebrate. Come to be inspired. Come to be energized. Come to turn the world upside down. Let us enter in and let us worship together.
The flaming chalice is the symbol of Unitarian-Universalism. We kindle the flame of our faith in the cup of our covenant. Our chalice lighting reading this morning is from Brian C. Lee, The Light Within Us. We light our chalice as a symbol of the light within us and the life that flows through the world around us. It is our beacon as we search for truth. It is the warmth in our hearts for love, and it is the energy that propels us to action. May we be kindled by our time together. I invite you now to rise in body or spirit and join in singing our first hymn this morning, number 1030 in the teal hymnal, Siyahamba. Siyahamba. My apologies. Well done. You're invited to remain standing as we sing and then speak our affirmations, found in the laminated sheets on the hymnal shelf in your pews. We'll sing it in English first and then in Portuguese. And when we get to the spoken affirmation, please speak it in the language that's most comfortable for you. Please be seated.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. And thank you all for being here. Now, listen, can anybody tell me what is happening on Tuesday? Mardi Gras, exactly. Or otherwise known as Fat Tuesday. Or when I was growing up, it was sometimes known as Shrove Tuesday in Ireland, but we mostly remembered it as Pancake Tuesday, because that was the day that everybody made pancakes. Because the reasoning was you had to use up all the eggs and the sugar and things, that fattening things, before you went into Lent. Because, as you probably all know, Mardi Gras is the day before Ash Wednesday, which is the beginning of Lent in the Christian tradition. So I thought, given that we have Lent coming up, I would talk a story about, though, Mardi Gras and celebrating Mardi Gras. So if you'll just give me a moment, I will try to find the story. In a moment. And all is in the goodness of time. There we are. Right. So I don't know, how many of you have heard of Trombone Shorty? No? Yes? Oh, quite a few, yes. So Trombone Shorty is a tremendous musician who grew up living in New Orleans and learning to play the trombone there in Mardi Gras processions. So I thought we might have a story about Trombone Shorty, and this is actually a story he told about himself and how he came to be the great musician that he is today, and to say, in particular, how proud he is of New Orleans and where he grew up in, then also how proud he is of the Mardi Gras tradition. So, where you at? Where you at? Where you at? we have our own way of doing things down in New Orleans. And our way of talking, too. And that's why when we want to meet somebody and say a hello to a friend, we say, "Where you at?" Now, lots of us have nicknames, but I want to tell you the story of how I got my nickname. Just like when you start with your favorite song, you start at the beginning. So let's start at the beginning, because this is a story about music. But before you can understand much about music and how much it means to me, you have to know how important it is that I'm from my hometown, which is my greatest inspiration. I grew up in a neighborhood in New Orleans called Treme, and any time of the day or night, you could hear music playing. Now, there was always music in my house. My big brother James played the trumpet so loud, you would hear him all the way across the street, all the way across town. He was the leader of his own band, and my friends and I would pretend to be in the band too. Now, there's one time every year when we really all got to play, and that was the Mardi Gras parade. And we'd fill the streets and have beaded necklaces and play and play and play music. I love the brass bands with their own trumpets and their trombones and their saxophones, and with the biggest brass instrument of all, the tuba, that wrapped around the musician like an elephant's trunk. Yes, there was music all day long as the parade ran past my house and my neighbors danced along. I loved these parades during Mardi Gras because they made everyone forget their troubles, at least for a little while. People didn't really have much money growing up in Treme, but we always had lots of music. Now, I listen to all of the sounds and mix them together, which is just how we cook. We take one big pot and we throw in sausage and crab and shrimp and chicken and vegetables, whatever we have in the house. And then we cook it up and we call it gumbo. Yeah, I wanted my sound to be just like that. Just like gumbo. But first I needed an instrument. Now, the great thing about music is you don't really need an instrument to play. And me and my friends, we would just make up instruments and play along with whatever we had to hand. But then one day, I found a broken trombone. Now, it was all beaten up and it didn't sound perfect, but at last I had my own real instrument. And I used to play that every day. And the next time that the Mardi Gras parade went past my house, I grabbed my trombone and headed out to the street. And that was when my brother James noticed me and said, "Hey, trombone shorty, where you at?" So, from then on, I was known as Trombone Shorty. And I used to play all the time, everywhere I went. I never put down my trombone. It went everywhere with me. I even slept with it. And I listened to my brother playing all the songs over and over again. And I taught myself those songs and practiced every day. And then one day, my mom surprised me with tickets to the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, the best and biggest music festival in town. We went to see Bo Diddley, who my mom said was one of the greatest musicians of all time. As I watched him on stage, I raised my trombone to my lips and started to play along. He stopped his band in the middle of a song and said, "Who's that playing out there?" Everyone started pointing at me, but Bo Diddley couldn't see me because I was so short. And my mum then lifted me up and said, "That's my son, Trombone Shorty." And so, Bo Diddley invited me up to play with him and his band. And when I got up on the stage, I went right up to the microphone. And I lifted up my trombone, and Bo Diddley said, "Well, what do you want us to play?" And I said, "Just follow me." And after I played with Bo Diddley, I realized I wanted my own band. So I got my friends together and we put our band and called ourselves the 5 o'clock band, because that's when we got out of school and finished our homework. And we used to play all over New Orleans. I practiced and practiced, and soon my brother James asked me to join his band. And whenever people wondered, "Who's that kid in the band?" he'd proudly say, "That's my brother, Trombone Shorty. Where you at?" And now I've played all over the world with a band that I call Trombone Shorty and the Orleans Avenue, after one of the streets in Tremé. But whenever I can, I get back home. And I always keep eyes out for other young kids who might want to play. And when we play, we always march through the streets afterwards, particularly on Mardi Gras. So, where you at? Where you at? So I guess the lesson of that is always to be proud of where you come from, and always play music, celebrate, have a good time, and make the most of Mardi Gras. Thank you all. And now, this is the time in our service when we pause in a spirit of prayer and reflection and share some of the joys and sorrows of this beloved community. Now, you can share your joys or sorrows either by submitting them online or by writing them down in this book, which is usually kept at the back of the sanctuary. And after the joys and concerns, please join in singing the response, "There is a Love." And you'll find the words in the order of service. So first, I would like to light a candle in honor of Valentine's Day, with great congratulations to those who are celebrating, but also recognizing that this can be a difficult time for many people. It can be a complex, emotional time. And so we hold all of those emotions in our hearts, the happiness, the joy, the love, but also the sadness and the complexity that love can be. And may we all be held in love. So I invite you to join in singing, "There is a Love Holding Me." And now for some joys of this community. Nat N has a joy, and so we light a candle of joy and excitement for Nat. Nat says that she's missing church today, not because of the weather, but because she's involved in a dance performance. And she's most excited that her mother is joining her today in that dance performance, and they'll be performing together. So she's very excited to share that time with her mum and with all her friends. So we hold Nat in our hearts. And we also recognize that there are joys and sorrows that are perhaps too personal or too profound to be spoken out loud, or that otherwise remain held in our hearts. And these are equally important, so we light a candle to honor those as well. And finally, let's light one more candle for all those people who do not have a community like this in which to share their joys and concerns. And now let us sing again, There Is a Love. And so I invite you now into a time of contemplation, prayer, or meditation. Please settle yourself with your feet on the floor, and feel yourself supported. And then just allow your heart space to open as you center yourself. Spirit of overwhelming love. On this Valentine's Day weekend, when people's hearts turn to love, may we have the courage always to side with love, firm in our faith that in the end, love will triumph over hate. May we accept that each one of us deserves to be loved for who we are, nothing more and nothing less. And that fundamental understanding obligates us to extend our love and compassion to every person without exception. And in so doing, may we continue to widen our circle of concern and expand the beloved community. Because no matter what we look like, where we come from, or what language we speak, we all share in one humanity and one name, the blessed name of beloved. And we ask this in the names of all those that we consider holy and sacred, and by which we are all blessed. Amen. And now I invite you to take a further minute of silence for your own personal reflection, prayer, or just to rest in this present moment. Please breathe into this space of holiness, this time of peace, and feel yourself supported in love. may our prayers and contemplations be held with tenderness and compassion in the collective heart of this community. Blessed be.
Our reading this morning is by the American poet Adrienne Rich. This is, "What kind of times are these?" There's a place between two stands of trees where the grass grows uphill and the old revolutionary road breaks off into shadows, near a meeting house and abandoned by the persecuted who disappeared into those shadows. I've walked there, picking mushrooms at the edge of dread. But don't be fooled. This isn't a Russian poem. This is not somewhere else, but here, our country moving closer to its own truth and dread, its own ways of making people disappear. I won't tell you where the place is, the dark mesh of the woods meeting the unmarked strip of light, ghost-ridden crossroads, leaf mold paradise. I know already who wants to buy it, sell it, make it disappear. And I won't tell you where it is, so why do I tell you anything? Because you still listen. Because in times like these, to have you listen at all, it's necessary to talk about trees.
Laissez les bons temps rouler. Let the good times roll. Just be patient. It is indeed Carnival. Carnival began in Brazil on, I want to say, Friday. Possibly yesterday, and goes through Tuesday. Mardi Gras is on Tuesday. Mardi Gras is the culmination of the season of Carnival, that time between Epiphany and Lent. When people go wild, when there are celebrations in the streets. In the United States, it was first celebrated in what is now Mobile, Alabama in 1703 by French-Canadian explorers. I'm going to take my mask off because it is not the most comfortable mask in the world. I'll put it back on later. It was first celebrated by French explorers, French-Canadian explorers in 1703, but the roots go back at least as far as medieval Europe, possibly earlier than that. And in Brazil and other countries around the Caribbean, and there's a strong Afro-Caribbean influence. And what do all of these things have in common? Well, the wild celebrating was very much a reaction to oppression, to the control exerted by the church, by the landowners. We're talking about medieval Europe. We're talking about serfdom, slavery, right? And the same in the United States. It became adopted always by those who are generally not in power. Well, I say that, and in New Orleans, it's a little tricky. It's interesting how it works there, but we'll get to that. So it was a release valve. And for a long time, the powers that be allowed it because they recognized that if they could get people to expend their energy this way, they might be less likely to use their energy to literally overthrow those who were oppressing them. And so many of the images, many of the ideas that happen during Mardi Gras and Carnival are these images of a grand overturning. Why is today's service called Turning the World Upside Down? Because that's what this is about. It's about turning power on its head. So there might be a lord of misrule. Have you heard the lord of misrule? Or a king, a Mardi Gras king. And this is somebody, sometimes in some traditions, in some places, it was a criminal. But someone who would mock, someone who's crowned as king and would mock the leadership. Mockery is an important, important tool. We'll talk about that again when we talk about Jesus walking into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday and how that is also a mockery. So Lent is kind of bookended by these two holidays that involve a lot of mockery of power. But this release valve, it could also be dangerous, couldn't it, to those in power, because it can make people suddenly feel empowered. It can energize folks, and has done. Now, in New Orleans, which in many ways is still a very segregated city, in New Orleans, there were these crews that developed for the Mardi Gras parades, and these crews would become these were like business communities, or this was the people that you were with all year long, because there was all this preparation going into it, and it became a means of doing business, a means of like being in the JCs, right? I know this person from my crew, so I'm going to go to him for a bank loan. And the crews were segregated. The crews were originally, they were all white. And so what did the disenfranchised in New Orleans do? They started their own Mardi Gras parades with their own crews. And such a stink it caused when maybe 15, 20 years ago, New Orleans announced that these crews had to be integrated. Oh, but this is out, but we've always done it this way. But this is tradition. Well, yes, and this is tradition that was keeping people down. But folks recognize, well, if I can't get into that, I'm just going to have my own parallel, right? And what do these crews do? Well, there are these big parades, and there are floats, and people toss things off the floats. They've been tossing things off the floats since like the 1890s. What kinds of things? Who knows? Beads, and also coins called doubloons. In fact, we have some beads to share today. Why don't we share some beads? Now, we would toss them, but I don't want them landing on the lights. So Jan and Terry are going to come out with some things for you and maybe toss them gently in the... You want some up there? Yeah. Throw me. I know. Do you know what people say in New Orleans when they want? You can come down. What do they say? Where yeah? Or what do they say when they want something from the floats? Throw me something, mister. Throw me something, mister. Now you might notice that you're getting some things that aren't beads also. There are some whistles here. We're going to get to the whistles in a minute. I want to talk about first the colors. I'm going to put my mask back on because we got... If you brought a mask today, feel free to wear it. So my mask and Terry's mask, we have the same colors on our mask. Purple, green, and gold. These are the colors of Mardi Gras in New Orleans. These aren't the colors of Carnival everywhere, but in New Orleans, these are the colors. And the colors have meaning. Purple is for justice. It's a royal color. And royalty represents originally the justice in the land, among other things. So purple is for justice. Green is for faith. We can't do this work without faith. We have to have that faith that centers us. And so green is for faith. And friends, gold is for power. Who here wants power? I want power. You don't want power? I want power. Are there people here who really don't want any power? You're just happy for other folks to tell you what to do all the time? I want power. Well, this is all a lot of fun, right? There's a lot of fun, there's a lot of music, there's a lot of mockery. Mockery has a lot of power inherent in it. Do you know about king cakes? Yeah? King cakes are great. They're a New Orleans tradition, and they're purple, green, and gold, and they're kind of bready cakes usually. And there's a baby hidden in the cake. And if you get the baby, what are you for the next year? The king, which means that you're in charge of running the next party and everything. Yeah. Really. It's a lot of fun, but why now? Why now? Friends, why now? Because we are certainly in a time of overt oppression, yeah? In our reading today, she talks about people being disappeared. This is happening. And so how will we fight it? What will we do? Have you been writing to and calling your elected leaders? Definitely do that. What about helping our neighbors? And especially our immigrant neighbors. How are we going to protect them? Well, friends, nope, somewhere here. Ha-ha. Nope, that's not it. I feel like the clown car here. Where'd it go? Here it is. I have twisted myself around. There we go. I'm going to put this back. It's just a lot. So friends, you are getting whistles today. Why whistles? Why not? Because people are using these in neighborhoods to warn when there are icy conditions. What are we not going to do with the whistles right now? Blow them. We're not going to blow them inside. Until the postlude, you're all going to be invited to parade around the sanctuary during the postlude. And if you want to blow your whistles in time with the music, you are welcome to do that. So you might have either a plastic whistle that's on a string, or there are these little aluminum whistles that can go on a keychain. And some people are handing these out. In fact, there's a crew that's tossing out whistles, I believe, in New Orleans as a way to help our neighbors. Mardi Gras is nothing if not subversive. It is nothing if not subversive. Oh, yes, it's celebratory. Oh, yes, it is in anticipation of Lent. Lent is a time of preparation and contemplation and self-reflection and sometimes deprivation. We're deprived enough, but a time to deepen spiritual commitments, our spiritual life. But right now, Mardi Gras is a time to celebrate our commitment to the work with justice, faith, and power, to claim the power that is rightfully ours. To provide justice for our neighbors. And to do all this work in faith. And what is at the core of our faith? I know no one at home heard that. What is at the core of our faith? Love. Love is at the center of all we do. So take that love. Be joyous. Celebrate. Have some king cake. Have a pancake supper on Tuesday. I'm having a pancake supper on Tuesday for sure. Have a pancake supper. Listen to jazz. Dance in the streets. And let that give you strength to continue on in the work. Because, friends, there are more of us. And love is the only thing strong enough to overcome hate. We can do it, yes? Yes. We can do it. So with that in mind, I say to you, Namaste, and let us rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 153, Oh, I Woke Up This Morning.
Free.
Stewardship of our congregation is also a spiritual practice. You may give cash or checks in the offering plates as they come around, or you may use the QR code in the pews, and that will take you to our online giving platform. However you give, whatever you give, the offering will now be gratefully received.
I invite you to join me in dedicating the offering. The words are in your order of service. To the work of the church, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Amen. I invite you now to rise in body or spirit and join in singing our final hymn, number 120, Turn Back. And this is, of course, an admonition, but it's the work of justice that we're talking about. It's about building the beloved community together. Beloveds, go in peace, go in love, go in joy, celebrating justice, faith, and power. Go always in the footsteps of the holy. Amen. And now we extinguish our chalice flame. For our worship has ended, and our service begins. You are invited now to join in. We're going to have a little parade around the sanctuary. You're welcome to join in and sing along. We're in New Orleans, they have what's called a second line after the end of the parades, where people, if you have a tissue or a handkerchief, you can wave it and people dance and they just fall in after the official parade. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a second line. It's a phrase that means falling into line, coming into line. All right, let's rock and roll. Ready? Oh, pass me my Come on, come on. Wanna come on? Oh, when the saints come marching in, oh Lord, I want to be in that number. When the saints go marching in, oh, when the sun begins to shine, oh, when the sun begins to shine, oh Lord, I want to be in that number. When the sun begins to shine. Oh, when the saints come marching in, oh, when the saints come marching in, oh, Lord, I want to be in that number. When the saints come marching in, come marching in, oh, when the saints go marching in, oh, Lord, I want to be in that number. When the saints go marching in, when the saints go, oh, to be in the Yeah, the
discrimination in the whole process, in the school life.
Oh, I know, but that would, yeah, there's so much. Yeah. Oh, I know, yeah. Yeah. Wow.